When we first originally chose to move up here was because the housing market was very reasonable, and we had always loved to come up here because the weather was always extreme. You know, the hot, hot summers, cold, cold winters, and we like to dirt bike, and we have our boat, so we like to go on the water. And so that was our original, reason why we came up here.
I like the sunshine all day. We never have rain, we never have snow. I love it. Desert forever, you can go dirt bike riding all day, four-wheel driving, anything all day. That's what I really love about it. I just love fun in the sun, I guess.
Well, we moved up here because it was real affordable at the time. We wanted to buy a house where we can make the payment on just one income. So this was the only place that we could do that, and we never really visited up here or anything.
No.
We just happened to be driving through, so we got off and saw the homes, and we were like, wow, these homes are huge.
Yes.
And we decided, maybe we could start a life up here.
I came up here one day for a barbecue and a birthday party, spent the night, and that was it. I said, okay, this is where we're moving. Well, I thought I was crazy, but I said, no, this is where we're moving. I said, I want my kids to be raised in an area like this, where it's a rural area still. At the time, it was a rural area. The schools weren't overcrowded. We didn't have gangs up here. And if we did, you very seldom saw anything or heard anything. Police activity wasn't a whole lot of, thievery. There wasn't a lot of burglaries. There wasn't any murders up here. There was nothing like that.
I lived in an apartment in San Bernardino, and it was a dangerous neighborhood. And out here, it's much safer. So I like living out here because I don't have to worry about bad influences on my daughter or things of that nature. I don't have to worry about gangs and shootings or anything like that because in San Bernardino it's very bad that way.
We have our whole own different culture up here than down the hill and everywhere else. We dress differently, we act differently, we listen to different kinds of music.
I feel that we're not have progressed as much as the big cities have. So, you still get that laid back atmosphere, not like in the city where everybody is in a rush.
Believe it or not, a lot of people up here you would think would be in good health with all this clean mountain air, But a lot of people get sick around here.
Because the area does not have a lot of services. There is nothing to do. There's really no good restaurants up here to go. For entertainment for the kids, you'll see them in the shopping malls hanging around. I mean, that's like any other big city, but there is zero for them to do. If they want to do anything, they leave the area for entertainment.
We do parties out here. We throw our own, so we'll go and meet in the middle of a desert, start a big bonfire, and then just hang out there. That's where everybody meets. We don't go to clubs and do stuff like that. That's more of like an LA thing.
As you can see in most of the areas in Victorville, really nice houses, and the houses are very modestly priced, which is really good. And most of them are newer homes, so you don't have to, buy something as you would in the city, where maybe you pay the same amount and get way less for your money.
And I lived down the hill in Bloomington. And I spent my entire life down in the Inland Empire. And when my wife and I got married and we started looking for a house, we looked down there and we knew there was no way we could afford to buy a house down there. You know, the same house that I have here, down there was almost $400,000. And I just thought, you know, there's no way. So we decided if we wanted to buy a house, we had to start looking up in the high desert because it was affordable at the time.
I couldn't afford to move, you know, anywhere else, you know, and so, you know, this is where, you know, and I actually, you know, when I found the house, I knew it when I walked in it, that this was it, that I felt like home.
There's like a playroom like area where we have a pool table and another dining area for us. And then there's another kitchen and then their living room. And then you go upstairs. Oh, there's a bathroom and a bedroom. That's where my boys are. And then upstairs is a huge, massive, I mean, it's really big loft. And they have like a apartment, basically. Their master bedroom is massive. So it's really nice. And then there's 3 other bedrooms. So yeah, it's nice. I forgot the square footage, but it's big.
Compared to our old house, it's double the size. Our old house was 1,200 square feet with 3 kids, and now our newer house is 2,400 square feet with 3 kids. So we're not on top of each other like we were. That was a part of the reason why we moved here.
It's funny because when I look at, you know, these homes, and like when my friend came out to see my house, she said, "My God, your house looks like it's something on MTV Cribs," you know. And I said, "I don't know, it doesn't." And she goes, "Do you know if this house was in Orange County, it would probably sell for anywhere from between $800,000 to $1 million." And, you know, it's just crazy to me. It's like, wow, you know, you know, it's because it's true. It's like these are beautiful homes, but because of where they're at, you know. Like I said, I came from renting, and my dream was to always own my own home, know what it feels like. I'll never forget the day I was handed those keys and walking into my own house. I rolled around on the carpet in joy because I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I never thought I would be here, you know, and by the grace of God, you know, I was lucky enough to, you know, have it, and hopefully we'll be able to hold on to it, you know.
Your home is wherever you make it. So if, you know, when we leave this house and we go to our next home, I mean, your home is where you live, you know, and once we leave it, it becomes a house. And the next people that move in, that will be their home, so.
The houses are far enough apart that you don't feel like you're in a sardine can, or at least the tract that I'm in, I don't feel that tight or that enclosed.
This neighborhood was very quiet. It was only this block. Everything else was desert all around us. It only ended up to that house. And it was, I mean, you could even hear the coyotes and, you know, the crickets and everything. And it was peaceful and quiet. And they had told us, yeah, it was just going to expand to the back, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, we had so many houses overcrowding us. Like, that's all new, and that's to the right, and then back there. And now you just hear cars, you know, the police, the ambulance. It's just so overcrowded now, and it's a big change from one block to the whole city just being full of houses.
Probably around 2003 is when the housing boom started up here, and that's when there was a lot of housing. It's grown. It's gone from maybe 5,000 people to 50,000, I believe it is, in this area. It's grown. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I know it's grown a lot.
To me, it was like the Old West with the cowboys and Indians here. Everybody was friendly. There was no lines to wait in. You wouldn't have to worry about locking your door at nighttime or locking your car. We just enjoyed it. It was different for us. But things started to change in 1999, the year 2000. They had built 5 jails on Air Base Road opposite the old George Air Force Base. And what had happened, the element from Los Angeles, Long Beach, they decided to move up here to be close to their family, I guess, that were in jails. And they brought all their habits with them. And then in turn, all the crime came.
I still love it here. I want to move, but I still love it here. This place is gone. It's become another LA, basically. But I watched it grow. It grew crazy.
It was small. A lot of people used to walk and get to know each other. You could see neighbors as they're walking their babies and their dogs, and you wave and say hello. And now, during the housing boom, so many people moved here because of the affordability that it became less of a neighborhood. So now people are afraid to speak to people in the community. You know, I never locked my doors, never. I lock my doors now, lock my car doors. You don't speak to anyone. There's a high rate of sexual predators in the area, so you don't want your kids to go out. A lot of violence at the parks and everything, so your kids can't go play at the parks. But overall, I think still basically a good place to live.
We sold our one home in 2005 when the peak of the real estate was here. My wife was in real estate for 15 years. She was a broker. And we had bought our house. We had it built in 1985. We were in the home for 20 years, and we sold it for a very, very good profit. 3-4 times what the house was worth when we had first had it built. We noticed the neighborhood had changed dearly. We had all the original neighbors, all the original kids that had grown up on the street, and the crime was starting to become on the street. We had one home invasion. We had, I guess what they call them, skinheads that moved beside us, which were very, very violent. And on the other side of us, we had some people that just got out of prison that were renting the home. So I told my wife, I says, the kids are grown, they've got their own lives, and we have to move or we'll never sell this house.
When I first bought my house, we paid $167 for it. It took them a year to build it, and when I would come back every 2-3 weeks just to see the progress, you know, and take pictures and stuff like that, just because it was our first house that we bought together. And I came back 2 weeks after we signed the papers, and that was in like 2004. And I'm sorry, yeah, 2004. We came back, and the 2 weeks later, when I went into the sales office, the price of the house was $20,000 more in 2 weeks. And I thought, holy smokes, right on, you know? So I kept coming back, and every time I came back, they were asking more for the houses. The next phase was up 20,000, 30,000, 40. By the time I moved in a year later, I had $100,000 in equity, and I hadn't even moved in yet.
They were building, I mean, homes after homes. Like when I first started coming out here, I mean, there was several. I mean, I had a book to go by. And we were going down all these streets, you know, and you'd see the people, you know, on the corners holding the signs that you see, you know, and you know, you could find a house, you know, models to look in everywhere, and then it just stopped. And it's just, to see that happen, it was just like so devastating. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, how does it go from that to this in no time at all? It's crazy.
we're going opposite of what the housing boom was. When it was booming, they were going 30,000 a week. The builders were raising the prices every new phase, 30, 40. Now it's going 30 down, 40 down, 50 down, 100 down, 150 down, 200,000 down. And when you're $300,000 down, what do you do?
Over there, I used to live in Eagle Ranch with my dad over there, and we didn't really know much people over there. And then we moved out of there and we got this house. He pretty much bought at the wrong time at this house. He got his Eagle Ranch house for like 200,000 or something, right when it was at the lowest, you know. He bought it a good time, got a nice house, and then, I don't know, he just wanted a bigger house, you know. Everybody was buying bigger, better, bigger, better. We was getting these mansions, you know, so these houses were nice when they first came out. Everything, all the options, you know, they have cable in every room. You don't have to pay for that. Telephone lines in every room. You don't have to pay for that. You know, and they had all kinds of options that he now had money for to put in his house and that he didn't before. So he got this house for like $4 something, man, and he ate it big time. You know, now same house behind him was worth like half as much.
The very first day I moved in and I was unloading my truck, one of my neighbors came up and said, "How much did you pay for your house?" The first thing he said to me, didn't ask me what my name was, didn't ask me anything. He just, "How much did you pay for your house?" And you know, it's public information, and I said, at first I kind of felt a little awkward, but then I thought, you know, it's public information. You can go and find out anywhere. And I told him, and he came from the same area that I came from Azusa. He moved up here a year before I did, and he paid, I think he said $340 for his house. And I paid I paid about $120,000, $130,000 less than he did for a bigger house.
You know, people like me who paid way too much for the house, honestly, I think that they should give us some of the money back. You know what I mean? Because the houses are not worth
They
that.
overinflated.
We'll never, this is the way I feel about these homes, especially the first line of us on Mesa Linda, the first street. We will never, ever, ever recoup what we paid for these houses.
And everything is smoke and mirrors. I personally sat and qualified people and told them they didn't qualify, and they went to one of these lenders and they qualified them and put them in a home.
Because a lot of people, when they bought houses, they didn't have jobs, they didn't have anything stable, and they still tried to do what they could with whatever they had, which was nothing.
Here's what I think happened. The lenders, the banks, would lend out what's called stated income, where you could get a loan without verifying any income. So you had people who maybe didn't have jobs or maybe made minimum wage, and they'd have several families living together up here, mixing incomes, and they'd be able to get a loan from the bank because they wouldn't verify anything. And during the times when the market was going up and you could buy a house, you put your name on a list. If you got picked, you knew you'd make money. It was guaranteed. That's one of the reasons we invested up here. We knew values were going up everywhere. So that's what I think. And then what happened is when the market bubble burst, a lot of the people who said they made so much money who didn't, they either left because their houses went down by half, or they really aren't making the money anyway, and the economy got even worse, and now they can't even scrape by, so they just gave it back to the bank. That's what I think happened up here.
Some people weren't even documenting how much they make. The banks were just lending the money to these people, you know, and that kind of aggravates me a little bit, that the banks were just doing that.
I didn't think it was a very healthy condition. I thought, you know, giving money to people who actually couldn't afford the houses is not a good deal. When people have shaky jobs, where places are starting to close down, it's not a good idea to buy a house that you really, really can't afford. Even if you get a really great loan, there's something wrong with it.
You know, I don't think anybody, including myself, really checked it out enough. We just all figured our homes were going up so fast that it would take care of itself. and no one's seen the bubble busting.
I think they just loaned it because they could and they could make their money, and we took it and we spent it. I mean, there really isn't anybody to blame. I mean, I can't blame Citibank or one of them because we did it.
It's the old story that, like P.T. Barnum said, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. That's what these old mortgages that people fell into. It was their dream, but it was shattered because they didn't have enough foresight to know what could happen by getting into that. So you have to look at more things than what is on the surface.
When the prices start falling, it was too late to do anything about it.
But you know, it comes a point in time when you're making money off of somebody else's losses, and it gets kind of depressing. And when it's your neighbor or your friend or people are coming to you crying, something's got to be done. Somebody's got to say something. So I guess that's where I'm getting to the point where I'm so fed up because, you know, I'm not going to go try to modify somebody's loan because the government says I have to do this, 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 and this. Even though I don't take money from the people, I really want to help them. They're friends and neighbors. But there's so many people out there trying to capitalize off of people's losses that it just gets sad after a while. So, so that's why I've decided not to even sell real estate in Victorville anymore. I talk to some other people that are small business owners and they say, you know, it just sure doesn't pay to be honest, does it? You know, it's the crooked ones that are still the millionaires. And you just kind of face the fact that, you know, we're in a small town, we're not in a big town. So in order to stay up there with the big dogs, you have to be crooked, and I don't choose to do business like that, you know. If I can't do it the right way, you know, I'm not going to sell to an illegal alien. I'm not going to try to fake somebody's paperwork to get them a house. I'm not going to do any of that.
It's very unfortunate with, you know, the realty now that they're just trying to find commission and, you know, just they're trying to see money signs in their pockets instead of trying to help out the people out there in Victorville to actually find a home and, you know, feel comfortable to know that they're going to live there for a long time.
Owning a home is like, it should be, I think the banks made it look like, before it was like pride. It was like, once you put that down payment in and you're all excited, you got approved, then you got to go pick out your carpet. It's just so exciting, huh, Laura? And then now the banks made it look like, oh, it's no big deal. Yeah, we'll approve you. And then it's, the pride's no longer there no more. It's like they could just go to the bank and look what happened. Boom, it's just a big balloon happened and it just burst.
We were having people come and knock on our doors. Oh, would you like to refinance our bank? I mean, that's how bad it was because the market rose so high and we had so much equity in our homes. If these banks and investors didn't come in and swindle a lot of the people up here, I think that the high desert would be doing much better than what it is now.
I think the bubble up here and the bursting of that bubble, it was completely manipulated, meaning it was unsustained.
It's the desert. There was never meant to be homes here. It's the desert. The sand or the soil that our houses are on, it's like quicksand. So there's no real foundation there. They should have never built so many houses in a place, but they wanted to create some affordability in California because it's so inexpensive.
Now the banks started to repossess the homes a little bit at a time. But once it became okay for the homeowner to go into foreclosure, everyone started doing it.
Well, matter of fact, I just got a buddy of mine at work I was talking to yesterday. He bought his house over off of Village Drive and Oceanside is where he bought. He bought at the height of the market, and his house is 2,500 square feet. He paid $375,000 for it. You know, and I was talking to him. I said, man, I said, you know, that's insane. I wouldn't have spent that much on the house. He says, man, he goes, now it's worth like 100. You know, now it's worth 110. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm just going to walk away. You know, and that seems to be everybody's excuse. Just walk away. So.
You can still just walk away from your house because till 2012, President Bush passed the bill that you're not responsible. So see, why should people stay in their house? If they're not going to be held responsible, they can walk away. They made it easy. So that's why you see all the empty houses.
Some people were doing that too, like just leaving, knowing that they owed so much and left and then bought a cheaper one and then let that one go, you know.
They bought the house for $450 and they just bought it for $150, you know, and you know their payments, you know, $900 versus $3,000. Why wouldn't you want to leave? Even though you love the home, it's not fair that they have such a lower payment, you know. So I can understand it.
Do we stay up here? Do we keep
Is it going to
investing?
get worse? Yeah, is it going to
keep
get
paying our
worse?
taxes, or do we just walk away like everybody else? But you know, that's not the solution either, so we just don't know.
My wife and I, you know, we've worked our entire life, you know, to get our credit score way up there, and you know, and do good for ourselves, you know. And I'm just not one of those people that can just turn around and just walk away. I couldn't do it, you know. And for them to just walk away, I mean, for one, ruins your credit. You know, trying to buy a house later on or trying to rent or anything like that, you know, they do credit checks, you know. And if somebody sees that, you know, if I was going to rent a house to somebody, and I look in some man, you know, foreclosure, I think, yeah, I don't know if I want to rent to you because you're kind of a liability.
3 months ago, you could actually take walks down the street and actually see people packing their things and knowing it's going to be a foreclosure later. You know, they're not just packing just to move, you know, because no one can make money selling their houses. Either got to walk away or, you know, and the banks were negotiating with people. It was tough. I felt the people's pain.
Yeah, it's tough on everybody, and it seems like if you're talking about it, someone else is going through it too, or they're going into it, or they're just coming out of it, and they're frustrated and they're stressed, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with schools and all that. So it's going around.
If you just go down this street to the next street over, there's a little, maybe 8 or 9 houses, and there's one guy that lives there. All of them are empty. His whole street is empty but one house.
But every time someone leaves their house, the value of our houses go down. So we're basically stuck here. Or we do the same thing.
Yeah, my dad, he's drums up a lot more work now. Like, he's got 3 jobs. He works over there in Victor Valley College. He's an instructor over there. He's got another job, his full-time job, where he's a regional manager for the state smog program, and he administers all the referees and stuff. And then now he's got this painting business going too. So, you know, he's full-time, man. Yeah, just to keep that house, you know. I mean, we can't go nowhere. He's you know, he's strapped to that house, man. It's just on his back, you know. He's got to go with it, or he'd be owing the bank big time money, you know.
They had in the paper last week that there was 1,900 homes in foreclosure. And that's just what's listed in the paper, just in Victorville. So see what we're up against? We can't even if we didn't owe anything on our home, we couldn't even sell it. Because nobody wants to buy, if they can go on and buy a bank home for $30,000, and these people that flip, they just come in and buy it as an investment. So we don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Not at all.
There are 12 houses on our cul-de-sac, and 6 of them were vacant,
In the
including
process
ours.
of bankruptcy.
One did finally go to auction, but since then, yes, in the last year, they've all been occupied now, except for one, and that one was occupied when we moved in, but they've since moved out. We don't know what happened. We don't see for sale signs. We don't see.
There's just some kind of
auction
warning
signs.
sign on the window, so it's
yeah, a lot of people
obviously
have
still in the process of getting
taken advantage.
Now, with the kind of lockdown on the foreclosures, everything's in limbo right now, and they can't move forward with the process of the bankruptcy.
They are only allowed to have so many homes on their books at one time, is what I've been told. So what they're doing is they're letting these people stay in the homes for a long period of time and recommending short sales or loan modifications. But a lot of these people are leaving. So a lot of these people are leaving, just leaving the houses vacant. So it's sad, because actually I have some buyers right now. There's a lot of homes that we want. They're very interested in, but right now it's in the middle. It's in the process of the foreclosure process, and there's nothing we can do until it takes 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year, before we have any information on the property as to selling it.
When I started looking at the housing market, I started looking at the foreclosures, thinking, oh, it's a better deal, I'm gonna get a better house. But some of the houses that I looked at were just, people were demolishing them. People were so upset that they lost their home, and they wanted to make sure that the next person that had it, wasn't gonna be happy in it.
We actually busted somebody on our job once. We walked in and the door was unlocked, and we're like, hey man, So we walk in and I know somebody was in there, so I was looking around all quick, where's this guy at? And there was a guy and his girlfriend just broke in and spent the night there. I don't know, and they just left in the morning. I mean, we called the cops, and the homeowner didn't even end up pressing charges because he didn't want any more trouble. He just said, all right, just let him go.
I seen people like doing little things, like they would punch a hole in the walls or punch the door out, or put stains in the carpet. I heard people were putting concrete down drains.
It's heartbreaking.
And you could just tell the people who had gotten themselves into these bad mortgages, who were irate, and they would destroy the walls, the ceiling had holes. One house, the entire bathroom vanity upstairs had the whole mirror, sinks, plumbing, cabinets ripped out.
Gone.
So, people
So sad.
respond that way because they feel like they've been duped, which they were, but ultimately, we know that it's their own fault for not having read the fine print.
The abandoned house that we live next to, I caught children in there and trying to start a fire. And I had to chase them out, and it was an ongoing problem there for a while. So finally, I guess the city people came in and boarded it up. So I'm glad about that.
When the market first started crashing, homes were vacant for months, like 8 months. The yards were completely overgrown, burnt, the grass, just kids going in there. I've heard of so many kids having like parties in these homes, destroying them.
And then the people that are moving in, they're just investors. They're buying them up, they're making them rentals. You can go around, you can see the city is supposed to be making sure that these people put lawns in after they buy them. They don't. Proven fact, right next to mine, it's been there, they've owned it for over a year, they never even cleaned the weeds out yet, never put any grass in or any rockscape or anything like that. So it's still deteriorating the home values.
How hard is it to water your lawn, or how hard is it to cut your grass? How hard is it to keep your front yard clean or keep your house clean? It's not hard at all.
I mean, it's like people don't care anymore. You know, grass doesn't get cut. No one can afford to have a gardener. It's just the look of the house has just got gloomier.
Most people take pride in ownership. You know, I own my house. I like to keep my yard nice, keep my house nice. You know, it's mine. I'm paying for it. Where, you know, not all renters are this way, but there's quite a few renters that, you know what, it's not mine. You know, I'm just living here. So they let the yard go, which looks horrible. You drive down the street in the yard, everything's dead, weeds everywhere. They just, to me, most people that rent, I don't want to say everybody, but there's a lot of people that rent. They just, you know, it's not really theirs, so they don't really care. You know, and it's sad. It's very sad.
The quality of people and just the quality of how the houses are taken care of has dropped, because since the prices did decrease, that means that they're more easy to be accessible by somebody who doesn't have such a high price bracket like the people who were buying these homes, you know? So you get people who are on Section 8 and welfare and who are just slanging drugs or doing this, who are moving into these houses now, and not just people who are working all the time.
I actually was a single mom at one point and divorced at a young age, and I was on Section 8. I didn't rent a house, but I rented an apartment. And it gave us a roof over our heads, so I can't really say anything negative about it, you know. You shouldn't judge anybody, because you never know when you might be in a situation where you might need help, you know, whether it be from the state, you know, government, whatever. So, you know, I don't think it brings anything worse than, you know, I think it's worse to see an empty house than to see a full house.
I think that the people that are in the homes I mean, 90% of them, don't get me wrong, 90% of them are great people. But you got that 8–10% element that, like I said, brings all their problems with them, and they don't know any difference, and they think they're living the right way, and they're interrupting other people's lives.
The racial mix is varied greatly. There's, I've been told by a couple realtors who know the area pretty well, 60% Hispanic and probably 20% African American, and maybe 30%, or what is it, 20% Anglo-Saxon, you know, white. So, and that's not bad or good. I'm just saying, generally, the socioeconomic status up here is people don't make a lot of money.
They didn't build the commercial fast enough as they did, you know, they got all this residential going, and then, hey, where's the jobs? You know, all these kids that came up with their families, when they're out of high school now, you know, and they don't got no jobs, you know, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, it's never been a real big job producer up here. It's always been kind of the bedroom community where everybody drove down the hill to work, you know, an hour or an hour and a half.
A lot of these employers will pay minimum wage for a good job, and if they were to work, say, 60, 70 miles from here, they'd probably be making double for what they're being paid up here.
Well, my job situation, I'm working at a movie theater called Cinemark, and, you know, they've been cutting hours because it's just it's not busy. Our economy's so bad that people don't have the money to go watch a $8 movie, you know, And so they've been cutting our hours. I'm getting like 20 hours a week now. So it's kind of hard, but we get by, you know.
Victorville, it's called, some people call it Victimville because there's a lot of victims out here of burglaries, of break-ins, and that's why I do home security. I do security out here in the high desert because a lot of people are getting broken into and getting a lot of their things stolen. A lot of burglars come in through the garage entries. They'll come in through the side garage door like this. They'll break into the garage and then they'll get into the home and take all their valuables. They'll go to the top floor or the bottom floor.
I could stake them out, watch when people would leave, you know, watch them leave and go for a couple days, see how many times they come and go all day. Well, if I really want to get in there, you can just walk up and break a window. I mean, that's the easiest way.
From what I hear, there's been a lot of break-ins. We have a party supply business, and someone broke into our truck and stole a jumper from us, and they broke into one of our cars, and so far no one's got into the house yet, so.
Yeah, so this guy, he just bought his house right here. It's exactly identical to your home here. And he's concerned about protecting his home and family. He wants to do security. Because the problem is they work so far away and they leave their homes, their nice, beautiful homes here all day long. And that's when the burglars have a field day because they know that the homeowner's not home all day and they breaking into the houses.
It's an easy way to get money. There is nothing to do. And that's it really, it's just money and nothing to do. And some of us don't have the qualifications to go and get jobs because of like how the market is right now, people who have degrees and stuff are trying to get the same jobs that people who don't. Like people who have no high school education or anything are trying to get the same jobs as somebody with a college degree because there's nothing out there, so everybody's going for the same thing right now, so. That's where it sucks. That's why I think there's a lot of people turn to crime because it's easier, faster, way more money, so.
Could you imagine if your family couldn't afford to keep their home? They know they're in foreclosure, but they get to stay there for a whole year more. Now the kids don't have any respect for anything. They have no respect. They don't care. Their parents are showing that they don't care, even though they probably feel really ashamed. So the kids are learning from the parents, and I think it's more shame, but it comes out in violence. It comes out in the graffiti, the fighting.
We have our alarm system been put on since like over 3 years. We have safety doors. We have video cameras actually in our house too. We have, of course, my dog, and then my husband that is, you know, he's able to carry, so.
Every time I read in the paper, you know, more and more crime, more and more crime, more and more crime, and it's just, you know, my kids are not here playing unless I'm out here in the front yard or in the garage. You know, I do not let my kids come out and play by themselves. There's no way that's going to happen. You know, and you know, sometimes it worries me. You know, my wife goes to the grocery store at night by herself, and you know, things like that. I just, you know, the worse the economy gets, you know, and the lower the house prices, which in my opinion, well, now more of the trash start moving up here because now you got lower housing. Well, now you got people that can barely afford it, you know, so they're moving up here, and you know, it just, you know, a lot of them come from, you know, low income areas, and not everybody's that comes from a low income area is, you know, is a criminal, but those areas tend to breed criminals and breed that kind of stuff.
And I've been told that a lot of families get moved up here from Los Angeles, the gang areas, to start a better life here, but they still bring their bad habits. And I think maybe the kids are still trying to create gangs or something, I don't know.
It's a bummer, like, it happens. I can't really judge on people. Some people really do come out here for a difference. but then some of them don't. They like try to make their own gang up here, or they'll try to bring their own gang up here, and it's just like not the thing for it. It's just, if you want to be a gang member, just go back to LA kind of thing, because out here you just have a bunch of people just trying to get by as well. And it's not making it easier for anybody who's just trying to get away from that.
We don't have a whole lot of bad stuff, but we're starting to get, you know, like the big cities, and it's starting to incorporate up here. But it's like that in any place where you live. It don't make, you know, what country you're from, you know, where you're at. You can move from city to city, you're still gonna have trouble.
There's not that many police officers for the amount of people in the high desert. And it's such a wide area, a large area to cover. Sometimes it's hard, you know, if you see something going on, or sometimes the response time is not as good as it should be. But I think that that would eliminate a lot of problems in the high desert, and it would make it more appealing to people, upper class people. You know, we want to attract people that are going to invest in the desert, not, you know, bring it down.
The only time like they'll come out is if there's a gunshot. Because one time on my mom's birthday, we did some fireworks, and everyone thought it was gunshots, so they came storming to our house, 3 cop cars and a helicopter, and we're like, oh, they were just fireworks. But other than that, we've tried. Well, we've only tried calling the cops for a fight one time. It was a really bad fight in the middle of the desert, and the cops never came, so it was really bad. Someone got beat pretty bad.
It's like, you know, you can build a car completely out of rubber. There still will be somebody get killed in that rubber car. I don't care how safe you think it is, you know. And just like up here, yeah. You can have a cop on every corner, you still ain't gonna catch every crook, you know. They still gonna have their things going on behind their doors, you know. They're gonna be doing their thing. So, what can you say? That's life. Live and let live. I know quite a few people around here. I'm kind of like the neighborhood watch for them. I got nothing else to do, you know. You know, if I know people are not home, so I kind of make sure their homes, you know, they don't mess with them, don't get tagged and stuff like that. I just call the cops, you know. This neighborhood right here is diverse as you can get. And there is no animosity, you know, against one neighbor against the other. Because, you know, everybody gets along. Everybody take care of everybody, you know. Like I got a friend down there with his garage door open right now. That's a retired couple down there, John and Ricky. And I keep an eyeball on them, you know.
In this neighborhood, I feel that we have a good community sense. That's because we've generated that amongst ourselves. We've decided to be, you know, what they call neighborly. We go out, we meet our neighbors, we talk to our neighbors, we share. Like if we have an abundance of something, we share with the neighbors. If they have an abundance of something, they share with us.
The joke was, you know, they'll pull up in the driveway, open the garage door, pull the car in, you know, that's about as much as you see of your neighbor.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a California thing that, you know, You know, the old adage, good fences make good neighbors, you know, so I don't know. We're just, and it's the sprawl, you know, the house is just, and there's no, they don't build it so there's a community.
Everybody's kind of keeps to theirself, but I do have some contact with some of the neighbors, and you know, they're worried. I know that we went to actually a birthday party down the street a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about if they could not modify their loan, that they were going to lose their house. And it's sad, you know, when your kids are playing with each other and know each other, and you're starting to finally get to kind of know each other as neighbors, and then that happens. You know, it's hard to watch.
So I guess they're modifying some loans and some not. I guess I don't know. All I know is the people I know aren't getting them. I don't know who's getting their loans modified. I don't know any that had their loans modified.
These are gorgeous houses, and they're abandoned, you know, and that's part of the reason we had to move up here is because our house, you know, we loved our house, but because of my husband's issue being disabled, they wouldn't work with us. And so what do we gave them months in advance and said, look, we're gonna have to stop paying because we no longer have any benefits. And I'm it. So, and I was looking for more work and trying to get extra jobs, and there's just not a lot out there right now. So you just, you know, do what you can do.
A buddy of mine, he just lives the next street over. That's what he did. He quit making his house payment, and the bank called and said, hey, look, you know, what's the deal? We're going to end up foreclosing on your house. And he says, hey, he goes, I can't afford to make the house payment. He says, I want to stay here, and you know, is there anything we can do to make it right, you know, to help me out? And they said, yeah. And so what they did is I don't know what they did as far as his modification was. They did something for him, and it lowered his house payment by almost $700. So, you know, he was able to stay. But I got a thing in the mail, you know, oh, you know, bank will help you out and this and that. And I thought, well, I'm just going to call just out of curiosity and see. So I called them up, and they asked me, the bank said, are you delinquent on your house payment? I said, no. They said, what else did they ask me? They said, you know, are you having a hard time financially? I said, well, no, not really. Well, we can't help you. I said, well, why? I said, why? Well, because, you know, you're not behind and this and that. I said, well, so here I am, the person that's making my house payment, you know, trying to stay, you know, keep myself on the right track and help the economy and all this and that, you know, and you won't help me out at all. But then you got the person here that doesn't make their house payment. They can care less. They're out doing whatever with their money, and you just give everything to them and help them out, you know. Oh yeah, you know. So it doesn't seem fair. If you're going to help one person, you better help everybody, you know.
I feel like we have to fight to keep our home because nobody's listening. Nobody cares. We're just a number, you know, we're just something. So I kept a big folder, real thick folder, you know, like of everything that's going, the crime and all that. And I took pictures of our house, and I took pictures of us, and I wanted them to see that, you know, we're people. You know, you just can't, no, we're not going to work with you. If you can't do this, we're not going to work with you. And I just feel like, you know, we've worked so hard, and we're willing to meet you halfway. But look at us. Don't look at us on a piece of paper, and, you know, look at us as, you know, a couple that's been together 22 years that wants to stay here, wants to keep the community nice. But that's, I just, you know, I don't really blame the banks giving, you know, people that couldn't afford it, because we all wanted that American dream. We all wanted that. We all got caught up in that. You know, the money was there, and we would get checks in the mail, just sign it, put it in your bank. We all got caught up in it. So I don't blame them, I just want them to fix it. Just fix the problem. That's all.
Yeah,
Just make your wrong right. That's all.
Just meet the people halfway. We all
and meet
we
us,
all screwed up.
Yeah.
I think that the government needs to do more. I don't think they're doing enough. I think, you know, the plans that they have and that are supposed to work aren't working. They're not working. You know, the banks aren't accepting. they're not doing anything. They'd rather just let it go through the process, which to me seems like they're losing more money, but I don't see them seeing it that way. So I think there needs to be a better program out there to help move the economy. If the real estate doesn't get better, the economy's not going to get better.
As a matter of fact, they had an open house, and I walked over there just curious to see what it looked inside, and it was beautiful inside. Wood flooring, really nice. And the lady she said that they're trying to sell it for at one time it was $129, and then went down to $119. And one time she was out there putting something together, and I go, so the house sold? Because I saw her getting the sign out and everything. She goes, oh no, it's going to auction. We just take it off the sign because it's going to go to auction. And then about a month after that, was just recently, about maybe 3 weeks ago, I happened to see her, and she goes, she goes, they bid it? Goes, well, they bid it 89, but the banks didn't want it. Someone won the bid for 89,000, but the bank said no, So it's like the bank's still being greedy, even after all this crisis.
The procedure for determining who gets that house is all relying on some woman sitting behind a desk in some bank, and they're determining your future based on the paperwork they're looking at in front of them. They don't take any personal stories into account. They don't care. It's all numbers. And that got us frustrated.
The problems, they're having such a problem right now, I know, with even people that are being able to afford the homes because they are such a low price, but the banks don't want to give them a loan. And, it's like, is it because they don't have the money? Is it, because of them? Is it, you don't know, because you hear two different sides of the story. So hopefully, if they wanted to turn around, the best thing would be for them to start rebuilding the loans, be able to somehow rewrite the structure of mortgages so everybody could afford the American dream.
Everyone would just like what they say. They want to live the American dream by purchasing a home, living there, growing old, and having their children, go to college and live a good life, really. And not being pinching pennies here and there and not being in poverty. So that's really what the freedom is.
Yeah, the American dream to me, I think is the same for a lot of people. You get married, you buy a house, you have kids, and then you have grandkids, and everybody lives happily ever after. But the way it's going right now, you got people, buying houses. Well, they were buying houses that they couldn't afford. Banks lending people the money, knowing what was going to happen in a couple of years, knowing that they wouldn't be able to afford their house. And so there's been a lot of people that their American dream is taking a big dive, or big crash, just because, they thought everything was going to be fine. They thought, okay, yeah, we'll have a ton of equity, like you said, we can refinance, or in a couple of years, I should be making more money. I'll be getting raises, I'll be making more money. Well, a lot of that didn't happen. A lot of people getting laid off, and so, yeah, the American dream for me, I mean, so far so good for me. I'm living the American dream, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't, and that can't.
What the American dream was to me when I was growing up, to grow up, someday get married, have children, be able to have a house to live in that I can call mine. Be able to retire and be able to enjoy my retirement when I grow old. And I don't see it happening. I'll probably have to work till I'm in my middle 70s before I'll be able to even just stop.
Like I said, 4,000 square foot home, it's a mansion. What do you really need that much room? You don't. So, it's kind of a catch-22, Some people are
are being affected by it, but they wanted that dream. They wanted to say, look at my home, look at, I want to be able to buy this and do that and do this, but reality is that you got to pay for it someday. And, they didn't think they were going to have to. So, in a way, we kind of did it to ourselves. We allowed our own pride, maybe our own pride to say, look, I want better for me and my children, instead of saying, you know what, I just want to be comfortable and live.
But you know what? My American dream is I just want it to be kind of how we were when we grew up. Just life a little simpler. Just a little simpler. Not so complicated. And, just people getting back to values again. I think that's where we've lost. And
We've lost.
Mm-hmm.
We lost
Our
that
values.
in the last generation.
Yeah.
It's all about me and not we.
Yeah,
So,
that's all we feel.
and that's where I think we've gone off the rails.
There's no dream now. It's gone. It's gone, period.